welcome back to my channel. So upon quite a lot of requests in the past, I'm finally doing a tutorial video on my drawing process, and for this video I decided to draw a cat because I've been doing a lot of pet portraits recently, and a lot of people say that they struggle with drawing fur and just animals in general, so I thought I would tell you how I do it. So the reference photo I am just going to put here on the screen so that you can screenshot it and use it as you would like. This is a really cute cat that I saw in a cat bookstore in France, and I just love her. So you can use this, and also if you do make a drawing with this tutorial, please send it to me, like on Instagram, just anywhere. I want to see it because it would be so cool to see that someone made a drawing using my tutorial, so do share it with me. Yeah, so in this video, first of all, I'm going to be showing the supplies that I'm going to be using, and then we're going to be doing the sketching. So I use the grid method to sketch because it just makes sure that there's a lot of accuracy later on with the coloring as well. I'm going to be using the grid method with coloring as well because I want this tutorial to be as simplified as possible, even though we're doing something very difficult, because I want as many people as possible to be able to follow along. So after the sketch, then I'm going to be going into the most difficult part, which is the coloring, and that's going to be taking up most of this tutorial. I have no idea how long this video is going to be, but probably something like over an hour because it's a very long process, and I want to make sure that I can include as much information as possible. I'm not a gatekeeper, so yeah. All right, so the first thing that I'm going to be going through is the supplies I'm going to be using, and I just want to specify that you do not need this much stuff and you do not need these exact things to follow this tutorial, because especially with colored pencils, I have a ton of colors. You don't need that. I love colored pencils, so I have a lot, but the point of this tutorial, it's not going to be about the colors that I'm using, it's more about how I use them. You just work with what you have, and you will still hopefully have improved by the end of this video, and that's what matters in the end. It doesn't need to be perfect. All right, so first of all, as you can see here, I have my sheet of paper, and this is A4 sized, but again, the size doesn't matter because we're going to be adjusting our photo based on the size of the paper in a second, so that doesn't matter either. The sketchbook that I use is this one, and this brand is great. It's Italian, but I think you can find it pretty much anywhere. It's the smooth one, which I think is best for colored pencils, and it's very thick as well, so that's great. And yeah, A4 sized over here. And then for sketching, I just use this random mechanical pencil. I like using mechanical pencils because that's just what I like, but I do also have fancier pencils. I just like sketching with this, so yeah. And then since I'm using a mechanical pencil, I also have this refill for 0.5. This is by 4 Candies, and they very kindly sent me some of their products a while ago, so do go check out their products. They're really cool and affordable as well. Then of course an eraser, again, just a random eraser that I have, and a ruler since we're going to be doing the grid method. So then the colored pencils that I use are by Castle Arts. In the past, I used Prismacolors, but unfortunately, I don't have those anymore. They were wonderful, but I think that for the price of these, like, they are very affordable compared to other pencils of similar quality, and your art supplies matter to a certain extent. If you know how to use them, you can work with like a ballpoint pen. So yeah, I'm satisfied with these, and I think this is the 120 set, and I'm pretty sure it was around 60 euros. So yeah, it's got lots of colors, but as I said, don't fret, you don't need all of this. So now, how do we actually do the grid method properly? Because you know, it's not just about having random squares, you need them to actually fit into the proportions of your drawing. So I have my old phone here, so forgive me if it's going to be a bit slow. And I always use this site, Red Ketchup, to resize my image. So you have, you know, your reference photo, and then your paper, in this case, it's 21 centimeters by 29.7. So that is the size we need. So then you're just going to go on browse and choose your image that you want. There you go. There's my photo. So cute. And you're going to go on custom aspect ratio. And so here on vertical, we're going to do 21. and then 29.7. Oh, no. Sorry, I can't see it because I've got my tripod here. 29.7. There you go. So see, it wasn't that exact size. It had to be resized a little bit. And now it's going to be perfect for my paper, or in your case, whatever dimensions you've got. Download it here, and that's it. Perfect. So now we have that image, and now I am going to go to my app where I actually add the grid, and I've been using this one for years. I don't even know if there's another option. So I use Drawing Grid Maker. And now here you also have to be careful calculating how many squares you want. Also, you can change the color here. So in this case, our photo is a bit dark, so it's better if you have white squares. Yeah, so for example, 29.7 is a strange number, right? So how do you divide it? Well, I just go on my calculator app, and I really just play with it here until I find something that looks right, that I can actually do with my ruler. So, for example, if you want 14 squares, that's going to be quite difficult. I mean, you can round them up, but that's still a bit hard. So yeah, I think I'm going to go with 15 because, I mean, there's not really much here. I can just do 2 centimeters for each square, but also you can just, every time that you're doing one square, multiply it and see what you're supposed to do. Because for example here, when I get to 5, I can do 9.9, which is rounded, and that's going to be easier. And then it's not going to lead to more small little mistakes in the other squares. I don't even know if I'm making sense right now, but yeah, okay, so we're going to do 15 for that side, and then 21, we can just do 10 because 2.1, that's easy. So go back to your app, and over here, we're going to do 15 and 10 over here. And you can also make the thickness of this smaller by just doing 0 here. There you go. And you can label it. So now we have, every square is going to have this, a letter and a number. So it's easier to keep track of them. And then you just save it, and now we're ready to start. All right, sorry for the change of scenery, but I'm filming this on a different day, and I changed my place of filming. I'm still trying to figure out the best way to film these sort of videos, but anyway, yeah, so now we can go ahead and do the grid. So I'll speed up this part, but yeah, I'll show you how I do it, just sped up. Okay, there you go. And now I'm also going to add the labels that you could see in the picture, because that's going to help me figure out where I'm drawing. So I'm going to just add those. And you don't need to write every single number. I just do the letters and then the numbers in the middle and at the top, something like that. So you don't have to write all of them. And also, if you're using the same grid app as I am, the first square is always labeled 0, not 1. So don't make that mistake, otherwise you'll mess up the whole thing. So yeah, 0, 1, 2, 3, etc. Perfect. So now we have the grid, and as I mentioned before in the video, to make this more simple for possible beginners that might be watching this, I am also going to be using the grid method to color. So we're going to color one square at a time. Well, not really one at a time, but you'll see later. So actually with animals, I don't really think that you need to sketch all of the outlines of the fur, because we're going to be figuring out where the fur goes when we're coloring. So the only things that I'm going to sketch before we color are the eyes and the nose and a bit of the ears, because we can start coloring from there and build a base around that. Also, I'll talk more about this later, but I think the eyes are the most important part of a pet portrait. It really, brings it to life. So we're gonna start with that. I'm starting the eye on E6. So the eye is on E6 and E7. So here we have E6. So just really try to train your eye to think about, like, you know, exactly where in the grid this is, because, you know, some people say that using a grid is the same as tracing or something like that, but you still need to figure out exactly how the shape in that square is in the square, like the distance between the beginning of the eye and the end of the square, you know. So you need to still be very careful. It's not like tracing at all. You can still get proportions wrong while using this method, but it makes it much easier. But yeah, we're not striving for perfection. It is okay if you make some mistakes. Also, I want to mention that whether you're using this tutorial with this reference photo or you're just going to use this method for a different project of yours, when you are sketching, I think a very common, at least for me, issue is that sometimes now I've learned not to do that, but sometimes I used to just give up on a sketch before I had started coloring it because I thought, oh, the sketch looks nothing like the reference photo. Like, I used a grid, but the reference, like the proportions are just so off. It doesn't look like this person or this animal at all. And that is really just something that goes away when you start coloring. You might have a sketch of a person and it looks nothing like the person, and then you start coloring and you realize that, you know, it's starting to really look like that person. So yeah, an example of that is the drawing I did of Joel from The Last of Us, and it looked nothing like him in the sketch, but then as I colored it, you know, the finished product looked way more like him. So sometimes you just need to really just trust the process. You know, it is true, you need to trust the process. Okay, so as you can see, it just, as I said before, it does not look like this cat at all. I've put the eyes, the nose, and the ears in the right places, but it does not look like this cat at all. So that's why I'm saying we need to just trust the process, and with color, it will all come to life. And yeah, also I kind of messed up the nose, but you know, this is really just a base, just so we can have something when we start coloring. Okay, so finally we can start coloring, and as I said before, I'm going to start with the eyes and then we can kind of start working our way with the fur around the eyes. If we look at the reference pictures, this one that we are currently using, if you zoom into the eyes, it's pretty dark. You can't see, like, you can tell that she has green eyes, but you can't really see all of the colors. So something important is, if you have multiple reference pictures, multiple angles of the person or animal that you're drawing, do use them. Like, don't think, oh, this is the reference photo that I'm using, so I have to stick to just this one. It is really good to have some additional ones. So for example, in this picture, this is the same cat, but this picture has much better lighting. So I can just use this as a reference for the color of her eyes, and then, you know, adjust it to the shadows that are in this picture, if that makes sense. First of all, I'm just going to pick out my colors from my pencil case. Another thing is, you know, in this case, you see that she has green eyes. I don't really think you can see the colors too well on the screen because I'm like recording a screen, so it messes it up a bit. But even though she has green eyes, it's like if you look over here, this is a bit more yellow, and then there's some brown, a little bit of like blue over here that forms with all of those colors. So don't think this is the main color that I'm seeing, so this is like the only one that I need. There's always a ton of colors inside of like one color. I don't know how to explain it, but if you're drawing like skin as well, you can't really just, like, if you're drawing pale skin, you can't just pick peachy and pink and beige colors, you actually need a lot more than that sometimes. So just really zoom in and think about all of the colors that you're seeing. Now I'm going to pick the colors. Okay, here are some of the pencils that I picked out. This is some because I still have like more green colors available if I do need them, but these are the ones I'm going to start working with. As you can see, I have some green, brown, yellow, just a bunch of stuff, anything I might need, and then black and white. Okay, now a rule that I have, this is just a rule I follow. It's not really something you have to do, but I think, you know, this is how I work and it's how I'm going to be doing this drawing, and I think it works well, is I always go from dark to light colors. So I look at my reference photo and first I fill out all of the dark colors, and then I go on to the brighter ones. And I think that works better because it's easier to blend light colors into dark ones more than it is to blend dark ones into light ones. And I learned that from oil painting, and then I realized that it also works well for me in pencil drawings. So yeah, that's what I'm gonna be doing. So here I'm gonna draw in this, you know, the, what's it called? The iris? No, pupil? The black part anyway. And then around it you can see there's also like a little bit of white. So I'm going to do that, and then also, so while I'm using the black, I'm also going to draw this outline here, which is pretty black, blend it out a little bit, not doing it too harshly, and then here as well. Yeah, okay. Here is my black pencil, and I'm going to erase my outline a bit because then I don't want it to show under my pencil drawing. Okay, so here where there's this like little white part, I want to leave that out, so just make a little space there. I can't promise you guys that this will be like the best animal drawing I've ever done, because doing it with a camera in my face is like, it kind of stresses me out, and also yeah, with the position of my camera and everything, I don't have much space, so I'm doing my best though. Okay, so this part I'm just going to do pitch black, so I will be going in there, I will be pushing with my pencil, but then for the other parts I don't want to push too hard because we're going to be layering in the colors slowly. Okay, now I'm going to do all the lines over here, so I'm going to sharpen my pencil because I want it to be really sharp. Okay, first here, let me erase it a little bit. Okay, so it goes up a little there, and then it gets brighter here already, so okay, this part over here looks pretty good. I think here we need to go a little bit darker. And here it's not really black, it's more, I think I'm gonna have to go in with like a peachy color here. But it is pretty dark, so I'm gonna like lightly start adding black, but lightly. Okay, and now this side. Okay, so this looks all right to me. Since, as I said, we're going to be doing pretty light layers, I can add some more darkness later on if I think that's necessary. But yeah, we're also going to be making it, as I said, lighter than in this picture, so it doesn't have to be super dark. And also I have to add a bit of black over here. Again, I don't think you can see it very well from the screen. There's, you know, a little bit of like little dark spots here. Just really zoom in a lot. If you're still using the grid app that I showed you guys, you can zoom in even more. I think I'm gonna do that actually. Okay, yeah, so from this app you can zoom in way more. You can see all of your details, so that's really useful. So yeah, I'm just gonna add in these bits. Okay, so I mean, they're not like super accurate. I do want to say that like I consider myself a realism artist, not a hyper realism artist. So I'm not trying to make like this drawing the exact same as every single pixel in this photo. So, you know, these things right here, they are a little random, but it's just, you know, they're mostly right. Now I'm going to keep both this app open and this one as well, so I can just like switch back. So yeah, in here there's like no shadows at all, so I can't be just following this reference photo. I'm going to still add a bit more shadow here. And I think I'm going to do that using like a bit of black, a bit of brown. So yeah, you can see over here there is a little bit of brownish yellow color. So I'm going to start slowly adding in some new colors and then kind of just figuring it out as I go. Okay, so here, because it's not as dark as the like other extremely dark places, I think I'm going to blend shade a bit more with gray instead of black, especially because we don't want it to be as dark as this photo. So okay, I think now I'm gonna start adding in the greens because this is looking a bit too dark and I don't want to mess it up. So, okay, it's difficult to use two images at the same time, but yeah, kind of just slide around like that. Again, darker greens first. So I'm going to start here around the pupil. I'm going to use maybe this dark green, just any dark green will do. Start going around the black part so that we're slowly transitioning from super dark to lighter. You don't want like you don't want a super drastic change from dark to light immediately. We're going to be building it up a bit. Okay, so I'm also adding a little bit of blue. Oh, and it broke. Because as I said, I'm really looking into all of the colors that are here. And here there's like a lighter space, so we're going to try and keep that emptier and then just blend in with the white. You can start blending in with the white a little bit. For the white, I use a Caran d'Ache Luminance white. Caran d'Ache Luminance is like, they're the best colored pencils ever, but they're very, very expensive. So I only buy the white, and it's not focusing, but well, I think you can see it anyway. Yeah, this is the white pencil that I use, and I think the white pencil is actually like, if you can only invest money in a good brand for one color, it should be white because you can use it to blend. So yeah, for example, over here, no, over here, you know, it's this white is sort of blending into the black. So if you do that, you know, it's very smooth because this is a great quality pencil. So I'm also using a bit of this, the yellow ochre. Okay, so I think this main part is done, and I think, well, it looks okay. Yeah, now we're going to add this part, so it's, honestly, I don't know what it's called. It's the part where it's like a bit pink. And yeah, okay. So I'm going to be using mostly grays and I think shades of pink, peach, for that part. Getting the grays in first. So darker around the edges to create a bit of depth, and then keep it lighter in the middle. Here, I'm not using a pink actually, I'm using this spice red. I just thought it would match it pretty nicely. So yeah, like I said before, you know, maybe you see that something is pink and then you actually don't end up using a pink pencil to make that pink. Is that stuff about like color theory? I don't know color theory, guys, I'm gonna be honest. This is just I am self-taught, so I'm really just teaching you guys like random stuff that I have learned through the years. Just blend it a bit. Don't blend everything with white, it can get muddled up pretty easily. So just, you know, go one step at a time, do it slowly and see how it's going. Okay, I'm adding a little bit of brown here, shade the pink. And okay, I mean, see, it's starting to have some life to it. It's definitely going to look better once we add the fur and everything. but it's all right. You know, I'm never like too satisfied with my art at this point in the drawings, but yeah, it's not too bad. Okay, so now I'm going to do this eye using the same process, and I think I'm going to just speed this one up because I sort of talked through the eye process already. But yeah, over here there's more reflections, so I'm, you know, keep more space free for those so that you can blend them in with the white. And yeah, so when there's like reflections here, to transition from this black to the white shadows, I use a little bit of like dark blue here. Maybe I'll talk about that when I get to that point. Okay, so what I was talking about before is here, these little white parts. I'm just adding a little bit of this dark blue to the edges of that because I think it just helps give it more realism. So not too much, but then I'm gonna sharpen my white, blend that out very carefully. And yeah, I don't know if you can really see it, but I think it adds more, yeah, it just looks nicer. Add a little bit over here as well, actually, just a tiny bit because there's not really much of that whiteness. And yeah, okay, so those are the eyes. And for now, I'm pretty satisfied with them. We'll see. Sometimes, you know, I continue a drawing and then halfway through, I keep touching up random places of the drawing that I did before. So we'll see. But for now, I'm pretty okay with these. Now I'm going to take a break and then I'm going to start on the fur. So we'll start, you know, like around this eye. And yeah, it's also going to look brighter and just as I said, this is a trust the process thing. So even if you're disappointed right now, it will look better. All right, so I'm going to start directly from here outside of this eye, and then we can just work our way through the whole drawing from there. I'm going to start here with this bit where the orange first starts, but I'm not going to be using really many shades of orange. It's more like orangey browns. I might do a little bit of orange here and there, but you know, it would look bad if we did just orange. It's more realistic if we use a bit of brown. So yeah, I'm just gonna lightly erase the grid that I want to work on because we don't want to see the pencil lines right now. So as I said, I'm going to be working on this grid by grid. So right now we can start with E6 and E7 at the same time, mostly E6, but you know, you can go a little bit into the grid next to that one. Okay, I'm gonna start with gray over here. You can see there's some gray here where the eye just stops. Okay, I think I'm gonna use a darker one, and this pencil is ridiculous. I'm really using it to the end. It's really hard to hold. All right, so the thing with fur is I think a lot of people struggle with it because they think, you know, you have to draw like every single individual strand. I have a slightly more like abstract approach to it. Okay, so as I said before, I do dark shades first, then lighter ones. So over here, you can see like the main dark bits right there, like these lines. You don't need to draw like every single strand of fur that there is. I just draw lines for, you know, the main colors, and then they sort of just blend together. So to just zoom in a lot here, we're gonna start like from this little angle in the square, and okay, so like this one, darken it a bit around here. Just get like the main ones that you can see first, and then take a look at any spots that you might have missed. Okay, so once I'm done with the darkest parts, I like to just pick a color that is like the main sort of foreground color in the square and very lightly add it to the whole square, sort of like in painting. There's underpainting, which is a similar thing. So I think I'm gonna do this like very light yellow. Okay, let me erase a bit more here. Yeah, you can't really see some of the first layers, but they're just like you're slowly building it up. So then we add a bit more yellow. Maybe not the best choice, but okay. Go into something a bit darker. Let's do more brown. Oh, that's not brown, that's red. Gosh. Okay. So we have most of like the main fur colors now, and here I can see there's a little bit of like peachy undertones, so I'm gonna add that. Okay, so this square looks pretty good, but before we like blend or anything, I would like to do a bit more square so that we can actually like get an idea of how the whole thing is turning out. So moving on to E5, I'm gonna do the same thing. Actually, the darkest bits I'm gonna do with black first. Again, not pushing too hard because then I want to add another color on top of it. So just the darkest ones. Now I'm starting to just blend the white parts of the fur, but not the colored ones because as you could probably see in the sped up part when I was drawing, I also added a bit more darkness around here, for example, so I don't want to blend the more colored parts yet because I might want to change them later on, make them darker and stuff. So but yeah, also another thing that's important, you know, so that you don't have to pay attention to every single strand. Another important thing is just look at the direction where the fur is going. So, you know, like this one is like this. That's more important than trying to get every single piece of fur right. It's just the direction and the colors in general. So, yeah, I guess a lot of this now won't really need any commentary because, you know, it's a pretty repetitive process, but I'm still going to put, you know, film my whole process and everything, just probably speed up most of it. So again, around this side, the same thing. Here we also have a little bit more of the eye, just really pay attention to all of the colors and then slowly connect all of the squares together. Okay, now I think I'm gonna do the nose because then I can do the fur around it. And yeah, I'm sorry for the lack of commentary in this part, but as I said before, I think, I've sort of gone over the most important basics and the way in which I work when I was doing the eyes and stuff, and then at the beginning of the fur. So now I'm just going to comment once in a while and leave the rest of the video sped up. But yeah, as you can see, this nose actually doesn't look very accurate to the one I sketched. So I'm just going to slowly change it while I'm coloring. Starting with the nostrils first, I'm going to do the darkest parts first and just do some very small bits at a time and try to get the right proportions and then work around the fur. For the first layer of the nostrils and the darker parts, I'm going to use black, and then I'm going to go over them with something like that dark red or brown, something sort of similar to a dark pink but not pink. Okay, so I've done the nose, and one thing I forgot to talk about is that I'm going to sketch the whiskers one by one with my pencil, because since we're working grid by grid, it's going to be hard to actually get the shape when you're doing like this bit first and then this bit. So I'm going to sketch them out and then just put my colors around the whiskers, because you can't do it at the end with a pencil, because if you just like use a white pencil on top of the rest of the drawing, it's not going to actually look white. It just like blends it out, so that wouldn't show as white unless you used paint or something. So yeah, I'm going to sketch those out and then just continue the fur.
Okay, so something I like doing is drawing most of the face and then moving to the body. Also so that I don't get like too bored drawing the same stuff for too long. So I'm going to do a bit of the fur over here, and then that also makes it easier to connect the two parts. Well, there you go, guys. Here's the finished drawing, and I am really happy with it. If you have any questions about this drawing or maybe about the sped up parts, do just comment and I'll reply to every comment. But yeah, I'll put a photo where maybe you can see without the reflections and everything. But this is the finished drawing. Sometimes I add a setting spray, but yeah, I'll do that. I have to do that outside. So thank you so much for watching this video, and I hope it was helpful to you. Again, if you make this drawing, do share it with me. I'll be really happy to see it. And yeah, see you in my next video. Bye.